Hey guys, welcome back. Luke here, and what you see here is a f***ing mess. So I'm going to take you through what's been going on. I think the last video was actually me just ripping it up in my car, more of like a POV style, and right now you see is I'm not holding the camera because I got a buddy of mine helping me out right now with getting everything back together, and he's also a cameraman. So anyway, I'm going to take you through what happened. Basically, after that video I made for you guys, the last one, I pulled my car into the garage here, as you see, and I was going to be putting on the ARP extended studs so I can, safely have my big wheel and tire set up on the front. Went ahead and did bearings and the hubs. You might have seen some of that on my Instagram. That all went smoothly. Put it all back together, went to start the car, and it did not start. So no fuel pump. So for those of you who know, this is the third time I've had basically no fuel pump on this car. So at this point I was pretty fed up, and I decided to just go ahead and do the external fuel pump by MagnaFuel that a lot of other people have. That way, at least if something was happening with it, it'd be outside the tank and I wouldn't have to drop the tank every time. But by the time you get the lines, the fuel setup, the fuel filter, it was going to be about $1,000, if not more, before I paid someone to do it. At that point I decided, you know what, I could probably do it, so I went ahead and dropped the tank so I could figure out what was going on. So what I did, and if you guys are familiar with this canister or not, the connector on the outside here has 4 pins, and one's positive, one's negative. I'll show you an image overlay of it. But basically, I tested this when I pulled it out of the tank, and it did not spin the pump up. I said, okay, well that's good, the pump is bad, whatever, like I thought, short it out. There's also a connector in here that connects to the connector on the other side of this connector. Well, I tested the positive and negative pins in here, and the pump spun right up. So what I did was I looked inside the connector, and the pins were actually all boogered up and just worn out basically. So I bent the pins a little bit, cleaned them up, plugged it all back in, and it worked. So that told me that basically this connector was bad, and you can't see it real great right now, but the positive and negative terminals are just wallered out. And again, I'll show you an overlay picture of what they really look like compared to the new one. So I ordered a new connector from Kinetic, or Jasib Kennett, I think is how you pronounce his last name, which is basically I have his whole fuel pump rewire, which has been great. So he sent me a brand new connector, the leads, and everything. So basically all I have to do is I'm going to go ahead and solder this together and hermetically seal it, and you put the pins right back in the connector. And for those of you who haven't done this, connector, I threw the other one away, or threw the other one because I was pissed. But you can see how kind of boogered up this thing was, and how it stays in here is these two little, I don't know what you want to call them, clips that kind of have to bend out before you pull it out. Now that sits in here. Like that, and then you push it down in and it clicks in. But once you have this out, you remove that, and then to get the pin out, you can actually just see it's on. You lift up the plastic side. Let me get my tool here. You might not be able to see it on the GoPro, but that's okay. There's a little pin that you lift up right there, and then once that's lifted up, you can pull it out the back side. I'm going to do the other side because it's got more wire on it. Okay, and then when you want to put it back in, you just push it in and it clicks. Okay, so that's what I've done with the new connector here. So I basically have the new connector on. Hopefully all the terminals will be good. I'm going to clean up the terminals and just basically put it back together at this point, because the pump worked fine. So it spun up really good, had a lot of torque to it. I felt it in my hand. And for those of you who haven't seen a hydromat setup, this is the hydromat setup. The cross is a popular one to use for the SRT4. Basically, when you buy the hydromat, it's just this cross, and then there's different mounting ways you can mount it. The SRT4 tank is plastic, so you need these magnets on the bottom here. And how you attach those is with these little nuts. They have screws in them, attached to them, and they go through. You put on the washer and then a nut, and that holds them onto the hydromat. Okay, and then you have these super high power earth magnets that stick to these. See how it's already moving from there. Ooh. Anyway, they're really, really strong, and you put those on the underside of the gas tank, and that holds this whole setup in place and makes sure that it sits on the bottom. Now, how you have to set it up to the canister here is a little bit of fabrication, and I forget the guy's name, but I'll put him in the link below that helped me out. You get this little angle because the hydromat only comes with basically this connector here. So you have to buy this angle, get a little bit of the Gates hose that's submersible, and then one of the key things was finding this end here, because the end on the normal fuel filter is not long enough. You got to find a fuel filter that has a long neck here to put it on, and then that just goes on the end of the fuel pump. Now, once this fuel pump is inside the actual canister here, you'll see that it just lays down, and that's the setup. I did have a little bit longer hose here at first, but I thought actually that was one of my problems. I thought the pickup was actually, I thought I was having pickup issues. So I did this whole setup and I put it in the car and it wasn't working. I don't know how much you've kept up with some of the videos, but I had about probably a foot, because I wanted to get all the way to the back part of the tank, and I had about a foot on there. Well, I got everything back together and the car wouldn't start up still. I could hear the pump spinning, but it wasn't spitting any fuel out. So I thought I kinked this hose. So I took the whole damn thing apart again and shortened the hose, thinking that was it. Well, got it all back together, checked all the connections, it still didn't work. Well, the first problem that was wrong was we pinned this connector the first time backwards. So the negative was where the positive was, and the positive was where the negative was. So when I was testing it here at the connector, I could see the positive and negative wire, so the pump would work. But when I plugged it into this connector over here, it would be backwards for the stock connector or the rewire. So it was spinning the pump backwards. So that's why I could hear the pump, but it wasn't pumping anything. So anyway, that's why I've got such a short length there on the hydromat setup. But it works great, because when I finally did figure that out and I ran this whole setup, it did work great for the week before I pulled it into here. So anyway, the video here is just going to give you a little rundown on putting it all back together, and hopefully at the end of this video she'll be running. So let's go on to the next step. Alright guys, so I got the tank back in there. Feeling a little sketched out, only because I'm not rushing, but I've done it so many times and I'm getting a little sidetracked, and I forgot the piece that goes inside the connector, that little blue piece that I showed you guys earlier. I just got the canister and the tank and the seal on, and then I was about to put it up, and luckily I looked back on my bench and I saw it there. Yeah, and then I put everything together and got everything up, put the tank in, cranked everything down, blah, 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 lowered the jack on the car. Everything's ready to go, about to fill it up with gas, and then I noticed the damn canister lid is sitting on the fucking golf cart. So I forgot the canister lid too, so no big deal. I just jacked it back up, disconnected the fuel lines and the connector, put it on, tightened it, blah, 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 blah. Here we are. So if it doesn't start now, I'm going to put it up for sale. So anyway, let's see what happens. Okay, I think I hear the fuel pump. Okay. A lot of noise going on. Let's do it. Let's do a couple more primes here. Alright, here we go. That's right, you little son of a bitch! Okay, so it works. I want to be happy, but I've been here 3 other times. So I am happy that it works. But I want to make sure it keeps running. That's when I'm going to be really happy. So anyway, let's go rip this thing up and see how she runs. see how she likes some ripping. She likes it. She's back, boys. I hear all the fucking rocks. That 3 to 4, son. Still gets it. It's worth all the heartache. Damn it, it sucks when you're in the middle of it, but it's worth the heartache. I don't know what it is, but it's worth it. Yeah, baby. She running. Alright guys, so there you have it. Thanks for tuning in. I'm glad she is running again. It's nice to have her back. If you like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Stick around for the next one and more on the Stinger as well.